republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Is there any public comment? I don't know if the form was out on the public comment, but there's usually a form that you can fill out to have public comment on items that you're interested in. If you're a party or on a line item, then we'll let you speak when we get to the line item. So we have a number of items here. Is Jorge here yet? Martinez? Number 4, I'm gonna ask the table, I don't see Albert Long here, but that's, he's supposed to provide us a corrected deed on the Evans to LaSalle County for Albert Martin Road extension. That was a deed that they gave us, a little bit of right-of-way, going down Albert Martin all the way to El Colorado. So,
The Juanita.
yeah. So, whenever we get that out, get them to send it to you all, and then we'll cover that.
You want to table it, Judge?
So we can table that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 5, discussion possible action to accept donations. I think we have a couple donations. We'll go through them. I think one of those from the sheriff's office. I don't know if they were from the sheriff's office. I think they were all fire department. Jimmy Donnell was one. Do you remember what the amount was? And was there another one for 1,000 from New Star? The Donnell Trust for 5,000, Plains Marketing for 2,000, and then Chevron Products for 5,000. They're all fire department?
No, Chevron is for the sheriff's office.
Chevron for sheriff's office?
Jimmy Donnell?
Yeah.
5,000, that's good. Hey, Judge, who the donations from?
Jimmy Donnell, Plains, and Chevron. The Chevron is for the sheriff's office, and the other two are for the fire department.
Plains and Chevron are for sure.
Oh, Plains and Chevron, so it's 7,000.
Fire department has one. Plains is 1,000 or two?
Plains is 2? We can get them back to Mary.
Oh, this?
Oh. So we would need a motion to accept the donations.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, total of $12,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Is there any other discussion? I'm gonna jump to number 7. Discussion and or possible action to engage the services of Pt.1 financial advisors and authorize the administration to negotiate a financial advisory. David? Approach. You can approach.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to pass out a PowerPoint presentation here. And it's a pretty big presentation, and I'm not going to go through every single slide with you. I'm just going to stick to the main points. So good morning, County Judge, Commissioners, Administrators, and staff. For the record, my name is David Gonzalez, and I'm with the FA firm PFN. If you jump over to page number, or slide number, I should say here, number 6, you'll see PFN is the largest and #1 ranked financial advisory firm in the country. We've had that designation for over 25 years. I'm based out of San Antonio. We have offices in Houston, in Dallas, in Austin, San Antonio, and the rest of the country. A lot of our operations are in the Northeast and on the West Coast, but we have a pretty strong, growing footprint in Texas and in the Southwest region. If you jump over to the next page on slide number 7, this is just a snapshot of some of the clients that we represent as financial advisors. So we represent Bear County, Alamo RMA, we represent Travis County and Austin, Dallas County, and then we represent Bedford County, we work in Maverick and Eagle Pass, we work here in your backyard in Dilley, Texas. So not only do we represent some of the largest issuers in the state and across the country, but we also represent a lot of entities in the area and in the region. If you jump over to slide number, on the next tab, so this would be slide number 9. This is I'll give you so on the second tab, it's slide number 9. This is the last rating report that LaSalle County received from the rating agency, so this would be from Standard & Poor's, it's one of the largest rating agencies out there. So if you look at, this is how they viewed you all in 2018. If you look in the green section there in the middle of the chart, you're looking at credit strengths. The strengths that S&P sees at LaSalle County: very strong budgetary flexibility, liquidity, strong institutional framework, and a recent history of strong tax-based growth tempered by fluctuations in oil and gas prices. So those were all the positives that they saw. On the bottom is what they call the credit challenges, and I'm not going to go over those, but what you see there is very similar to what a lot of the counties in this region see. It's not just LaSalle County. I mean, as long as you're in South Texas or you're along the U.S.-Mexico border, you're always going to see these weaknesses across the board. And it doesn't matter if you're a city or county. If you cross the street and go to your school district, the same credit challenges that you all see, they will see the same thing, because it's more of geography than anything else. So with that, I'm going to jump over to the next slide. Here we have you on slide number 10. So this is all the existing debt that you guys have right now that is paid through your INS and your road and bridge fund. So you have your 2010 certificates of obligations. You have your unlimited tax refunding bond series 2018. You have your limited tax refunding bond series 2018, and then you have your combination tax and limited pledge revenue series 2018. If y'all remember, you all had some bond elections, and there were some loans out there with Regions Bank, and we restructured and refinanced those in 2018. And this just gives you an idea of how much you financed, how much you paid down, what are the interest rates on those maturities, and when you can start refunding those for savings. That's what this page here tells you. If you jump over to the next slide, that would be slide number 11. This just gives you kind of an illustration of what your debt looks like. So if you notice, your debt is going down pretty much from 2028 to 2029, it's gonna drop significantly, from an average of about $6 million a year in payments down to $1.5 million in payments. So as you can see, you're you're headed in the right trend, that your debt's going down, and pretty soon, in a couple of years, all your debt's gonna come off the books, really. If there's no questions there, I'm gonna jump over to slides number 12 and slides number 13.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
going back to number 9, at one point, I think we were at a double A.
Okay.
But I guess the communications with Noe Hinojosa and the auditors, I guess, just didn't feel that he was giving us the support that we needed there to back us up to keep that rating. That was one of the concerns. The auditors take a little bit of time. There's less auditors out there. And, that was one of the concerns. The other thing on the exposure to the volatile nature of the mineral valuations, we've seen this throughout the state, that some of these people that evaluate minerals such as P&A, they're little groups that go into different cities, and they may perform the functions or try to perform the functions, but they don't really carry it out. So we underwent the changes in the appraisal district, which kind of stabilized your valuations now. So I don't know if they understand that or they really get into that, but I think you see it in the valuations that they've kind of stabilized.
Right.
So they're not dropping,
They're not dropping and then spiking and then dropping and spiking. They're staying.
so that gives you a more, a tax rate that you can kind of plan with and growth that you can kind of plan with. So it should make it better for the investors.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we do. Usually these rating agencies have surveillance calls every year or every other year, and that's one of those facts that we really need to bullet and highlight, that, hey, based on the changes that have happened internally, the tax rates are going to be more consistent, the revenues coming in are going to be more consistent, and that's something that obviously will have a positive effect on your overall rating. So that's something that we'll focus on the next meeting with the rating agencies.
All right.
And if there's not any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to slides 12 and 13. And again, this is just for illustration purposes. This is not, the county's not agreeing to do any of this, but this is just to give you an idea. If the county wanted to go out and issue any kind of bonds here, this is just to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So starting from the left and moving to the right, so starting at the top, you can see there under the blue heading, columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to start at 1 and just move our way to the right. So if you look in column number 2, we have your property values. We're assuming in this model that there's no growth. We know that there's always growth. But for these purposes, we're assuming that there's no growth. So that takes care of column 3. In column 4, we have your outstanding debt service. So this is all your debt service that's totaled in column number 4. We have your principal and interest combined in this column. If you look in column 5, that's your total debt service. And in column 6, we have a self-supporting amount. It's a small amount, but this is what we got from your audits and from your websites, that part of the 2010 bonds is self-supporting from nursing home revenues. So in column 6, we're subtracting out that number. And then what you have in column 7 is your net tax supported debt service. So once you backed out any kind of contributions that the county or any other enterprise fund is contributing towards debt service, you're coming up with what's in column number 7. And if you jump to column number 8, this is the effective tax rate in order to cover that debt service. So the debt service in column 7 is covered with the tax rates in column 8. So this right here is just giving you an idea of what your current situation is right now. This is just a snapshot of where your INS tax is right now, how it's flowing, what the debt service looks like. So if you look in column 9, if you do nothing, obviously you're not going to have any tax rate increases. As a matter of fact, your taxes are going to start going down next year. Little by little, they'll start going down every year because a lot of debt's coming off the books. So with this as a baseline, if you jump over to the next slide, which would be slide number 13, using everything that we just saw in this slide, now we're adding in columns 5, 6, and 7, we are putting a $20 million bond, just to give you an idea of what kind of impact that will have on your tax rates. So everything's the same in column 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have columns 5, 6, and 7, where we're totaling for a bond of $20 million. Now we have in column 8, we have your existing debt plus the new debt, and then we have the same less self-supporting portion in columns 9. So now in columns 10, you have your new debt service, and then you have your tax rates in column 11. So what kind of impact is this going to have on the taxpayers and the citizens of LaSalle County? If you look in column number 12, you're looking at 1 cent increase, 1.5 cent increase in fiscal year 2023, and then it's going to slowly drop back down again. And that's because a lot of your existing debt has that kind of flow where it's going down every year. So, essentially you can do about $20 million of new money at no tax rate impact. If you jump over to the next slide, again, same thing here. In this analysis, we're showing you what a $30 million bond would look like. And again, this is just for illustration purposes. So columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 stay the same. In columns 5, 6, and 7, now instead of looking for a $20 million bond, we're looking for a $30 million bond. You have your total debt service in 8 minus any self-supporting enterprise funds in column 9. And then in columns 10, you have your net tax supported debt service. In column 11, you have your tax rate. So what is a $30 million going to cost to the county? If you look there in column 12, row number, for fiscal year 2023, you're looking at 3 cents the first year, and then it's going to drop. It's going to stay at 0.17 cents, and then it's going to stay at another 17 cents the following year, and then it's going to drop down 16, 16, 15, 15, 14, 14. So again, this is just a way so that you can kind of keep tax rates the same versus having to drop the rates and then having to go back up in the future. Is there any questions y'all have regarding these numbers or this analysis? I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have on this.
Mr. Gonzalez, I've been speaking to Mr. Flores, and one of the things that we're trying to figure out is get a reconciliation of the remaining bond monies that we have. I know that there's been, in some cases where bond funds were used for projects that were not related, and we've identified those, and those they've been identified as due tos or due from, the road and bridge account. But the bond funds, I've always explained to the commissioners, there's a time frame to use the funds. They're not to be held forever. Usually those funds means you have to identify the projects to be completed within 2, 3 years because of the taxing consequences on the bonds. I mean, is that correct or not correct?
Yeah, usually, and bond counsel can attest to this a lot better, but usually so you don't get into any IRS issues. Once you sell bonds and the money gets wired to y'all's accounts to begin working on projects, usually you want to get the projects going and underway within 3 years. And that's just so the county doesn't ever run into any IRS issues. Now, sometimes, it doesn't matter if you're a school, a city, or county. Sometimes it does go beyond that. And there just has to be certain documents that get filled out by the bond counsel and attorneys just to make sure that if the county ever gets audited, that's not something that can come back at you all. But generally, you want to get most of those funds depleted out within about 3 years.
Now, the last bond issue we issued was in 18?
Correct.
In 18, so we're 4 years out. We have project outstanding right now, which is the JP number 3, which is at 1.5 million. We have some money due once we finalize the lawsuit on in Salle Community Center, and it might be about 600,000, maybe more. The outstanding amount was of the project was 2 million, still not paid, but because of a lot of the problems they had with the contractor, the leaks and the damages, we sued them. So there's a question mark, you know, what the range is. Outstanding on dialysis, about 300,000 as far as the final retainage. And there may be some due on El Jardín on the retainage. Other than that, those are the projects that are ongoing and what's out. We did do the full plans for Valley Wells Road. And out of, how many miles is that?
We got 2.5 right now.
But how long is the road?
8 miles.
8 miles. So those plans are already done, and this is those plans have been done 3 times. So what happens is that every time you do them, you know, it's an increased cost. So at some point, you can't continue to be doing plans and not funding the projects. It's just a waste of professional services. The Holland Dam Road, there's one bridge that's not a BRINSAP bridge, where the plans have been done for Precinct 3. That needs, it's not gonna get funded by BRINSAP, so that's gonna have to be funded at some point. But those plans are done as well. But until we get the final reconciliation from Jorge to see how much is outstanding, they won't know how much is left over. I know that the bond funds are used by now, right, Jorge? So the only thing that's probably gonna be left are the monies in the certs and whatever amount is due back from other funds that we've identified. So, but part of the whole goal today is that we've been talking about the different services for a while. You left Hinojosa, and I was an advocate for you to go out on your own because I know you're very aggressive and very thorough, that, you know, I wanted to bring Commissioner's Court that there was, you know, I would like to bring your firm on board. And then that way you work with, you know, the incoming judge and the commissioners. I don't want to accept debt right now when I'm going out. I do want to finish the projects that we have going. But part of the planning that they have on what projects they want, you know, they need to follow through on, you know, on these things. You know, the whole goal with the road infrastructure, the bridge, and we've fixed a lot of bridges, we got more being fixed, is the bridge lifespan. It used to be 75 years, maybe it's still a long time. The heavy oil field deteriorated and damaged a lot of our bridges by the weight. And that's what you need to pay attention to, commissioners, is making sure that your bridge structure, because the pavement gets demolished. But the chance to rebuild the bridges, they'll last for many, many years. And that's why we went after the BRINSAP program really, really hard. But, so the whole goal was to bring on board, I mean, the communication, the interaction with you and the elected officials far exceeds the communication that we have with NOE. And that makes a big difference. I mean, if they want to finish the projects and get started, then after today, you identify, you talk to the commissioners, and we'll proceed. And that's something they want to do, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm not taking that away from them.
Well, let me just add to that, Judge, in the same vein. You know, today the Federal Reserve is meeting today, and they're supposed to hike up interest rates 50 basis points. In the last 3 months, the 10-year Treasury has gone from a 1.85 to now 3%, and that's just been in 3 months. So, you know, you're gonna go out and buy a car, a house, credit cards, rates are going up. The Federal Reserve said that they're meeting again next month, and they've already said they're gonna increase rates another 50 basis points. They've already said that next year, they're gonna increase rates another 100 basis points. So the day of being able to sell bonds at a 1% or a 2%, those days are over. You're gonna start seeing a lot more bonds being sold in the 4, 5, 6% rate. So if there's anything that we can help you all with, that you all have on the 1 yard line and are close to moving forward with, the sooner you move on it, the better. The lower rate you'll be able to lock in at that point.
But the reality, based on the rates that you have on our existing debt, it's not even worth refinancing because the rate is so low, unless you want to get more money to operate with. So if they have a small project, it may be worth it, let's say $20 million, it may be worth it for them just to do it for 20 years. You know, because in a few years, it's going to drop down tremendously.
Right, and then you'll be able to refinance it for savings in a couple of years. But you're right, so the bonds you sold in 2018, 2 of those were refunding bonds, and the other one was certificates of obligation. So the rates that you all had on those, it was more indicative of what we've seen the last 10 years as opposed to what we've been seeing in the last year or so. So that was, you know, probably the high 2% at the time. And just given the nature of what we're seeing in the markets right now, in the environment, it doesn't matter if you're a AAA or if you're AA. If you're pledging your property taxes, now you're looking at the high 3s and the low 4s. It's just the environment that we're in right now, the interest rate environment that we're seeing.
I just got a question. Who's our advisor? Financial, who was?
It's Noe Hinojosa from Estrada.
Okay.
Hinojosa. David used to work with them, and then a couple years, the firm kind of split up. So they had Robert Tejerina and some others that went on their own, and the school hired Robert Tejerina. I think the city did too. And then David went to work for the nation's largest company on its own. But, and Robert is a really, really good guy, but and he knows his numbers very well, but my concern is that the only time you ever see him every 4 years or 8 years, whenever they want debt, you're never gonna see them.
No.
So that means they don't know what's happening in the community.
Right.
Versus, you're from South Texas, you've been involved, you know, and then so they know here. They know what's happening. So it makes it, you feel more comfortable saying, hey, this guy understands what's happening down here. So I was a very advocate 8 years ago, said, hey, let David out on his own. No lo dejaba. So he had to go. So the whole goal was today, we haven't had a financial advisor for a while. It's been, contract expired years ago, so.
So we don't have a
It's right.
conflict with them anymore.
No, so we don't have a conflict. So, you know, it's up to you. It's up to you. And I actually reached out to Jimmy and said, hey, let Martinez know if there's a problem. You know, if not, voice it, because I'd rather have, you know, a good transition in reference to something that's very important. The whole bonds that were done when we did the bonds were done like minerals deplete. Deplete mean that instead of depreciation, they call it depletion, is that they get extracted from the earth, they're no longer there. So the minerals deplete usually at a very high rate. These wells burn out in about 3 years. They start high production and slow down, so you have to do a lot of them. And it's pretty good. So understanding that, your heaviest debt service payments were up front when the production was high. And now they've kind of plateaued, so I think that's gonna be, so understanding the life of the oil and the demand, and the mere fact that there's another shell underneath, bring some stability to y'all issuing debt. But, there are some things that have happened, and I'll tell you why, and it kind of go in, is that they've set up revenue caps on how you could raise the general fund, and you're familiar with those. Meaning that you can't raise money the way you used to out of the general fund. You're limited to 3%. Any new bonds now have to go for election. We can't do the certificates of obligation anymore, or be very limited, right, as far as doing those.
You can still do certificates of obligation, it's just the process is a little bit more rigorous where you have to disclose a lot more information that you didn't have to disclose in the past. But you can still do COs. It's just, there's just a lot more stuff that the bond council has to put out there and publish in the local paper, yeah.
So it's become more difficult to raise money. It's gonna get harder to raise money with the way the changes have been. So, I mean, today I didn't put in an item to issue debt or other than change financial advisors. I think that if you spent the money and the Commissioners Court voted to do your bridge, do the full funding of the Valley Wells, that needs to be done. Jack's not here in La Cochina, he's done some work in La Cochina. If you gotta do the right-of-way acquisition, then it needs to start. And yours, I mean, those projects need to go. I know there's been a change, but, you know, if you're okay, get, you know, we can vote to hire your firm, and then you're gonna meet with them and see what projects you
Yeah, no,
want to
absolutely.
get started.
Absolutely, and then we, you know, at that point, we can get a hard number, and then we can come back and present, again, just for an informative presentation, once you all, you know, provide those numbers and those specific projects, and then we can talk about that, you know, a couple of meetings, and then when the court's ready to move forward, we can move forward, but, you know, from now to then, it's just more information gathering and informative presentations.
We submitted 2 applications for 2 towers on the radio communications. They're about $1 million each. And Don submitted them last month, and hopefully we get funded. But at some point, you're gonna have to cover those towers if there's not funding, whether it's partial or not partial. We're trying real hard. But that's communication that's really, really needed, and it continues to grow. Yesterday, I had a call from an outfit out of Houston that's done a number of foreign trade zones, and they're putting a package together. They're gonna reach out to Jeff, reach out to Larry, and they fund everything as far as the foreign trade zone. They're trying to do it in Gardendale on 400 acres. So the next time they have a meeting, I asked them to contact Mr. Dovalina, because you have more knowledge, even though it's out there. I asked them if there's any way to integrate it into the airport, and they said it's possible. But it's a very large firm, and they've done foreign trade zones for 40 years. So there's possibility of other growth other than minerals because of your I-35 traffic going in. So Commissioner So, it's my wish today to hire PFM, represented by Mr. David Gonzalez, to be the financial advisors, and for you to meet individually.
Can we afford it?
Huh?
Can we afford it?
The fees are competitive. They get, if you decide to do, issue debt somehow, then they're discounted through the underwriting cost.
Right, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So our fees across the industry are pretty standard across the board from firm to firm. I will say one of the things that's different about us is that every year you have to do annual reporting. Mr. Flores knows this very well. We have to do annual reporting every year. We don't charge for any of that. So most firms will send you an invoice for that service. It's an important responsibility because your financials have to be up to date with everybody that's holding your bonds out there in the markets. Well, that's a service we provide at no cost.
Because the tax issue came up this last year, and Jorge had to work through it, and, I guess they finally got Mr. Juan Aguilera to handle it. But, you know, they'll get challenged once in a while, and it's been challenged in the past as far as the prison incident. I remember we hired, Jaime Vasquez to handle that. But, yeah, today would be, you know, to, go ahead and hire PFM as our consultants.
You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
You're hired.
The motion carries.
Well, thank you, Judge, thank you, Commissioners, I look forward to getting to work, and y'all will be hearing from me a lot here over the next couple of weeks.
There's gonna be another item that, we'll cover in a little bit. So if you could wait a
Sure.
few minutes. Number 8, discussion possible action on budget amendments, including status of fund balances and interfund transfers. And one is, Commissioner, you requested, to make a position in 3 full-time. And then if we're gonna participate in fireworks, this would be the time to make any budget amendments that we need to. So that's, where we would cover it. I know the city's been working on having a function, and I don't know if they've identified the fireworks and the music and what they've done, but I'd prefer just to keep it all together and give them half of the costs.
The city.
We try to keep it all together,
You see?
yeah.
Where's it gonna be done at?
Where's it gonna be done at?
Last year we did it at the fairgrounds.
Is it big enough for a lot of people to be there? Sir?
Just
Barely. Because we had it outside the parking lot out here, no, we had it at the same time. I know y'all had a lot of people, we had a lot of people. So we only gonna do one event. Is that big enough for
For all the
for
time.
everybody?
Big enough for everybody, right? Okay.
Substantial amount that it'll take.
Because we had it in the parking lot, and the whole parking lot was full. And I don't think that many people will fit over there.
I mean, it's up to you. If
You know what, I mean, out here was the parking lot, y'all do it under the pavilion out there, right? Where y'all do it at? In the arena?
It's outside of.
In the parking, I mean, where all the booths are.
I think that it's a more centralized location also instead of,
Do y'all have a cement black top in case it gets dusty or windy? Or is it gonna
I
be,
mean, those are all variables that can be put together with the committee.
well, we had it here, when we had it on the parking lot, we had all the chairs nice, the music over there, kids running everywhere. I mean,
The fireworks are designed in such a way that the fallout from the fireworks is non-dangerous.
well, we had them over here in that hole where, behind Mito's house.
It doesn't work.
Well, I just don't wanna be like all dusty the way the cook-off is, you know, you're out there full of dust, and y'all, you know what I mean? I mean, that's all I'm saying.
I just think it's easier and fair, to have it in one location, cost-wise.
Yeah, I understand that, in one
Cost-wise.
location, but the thing is that the spot there? I mean,
We can
y'all
try.
y'all don't anywhere else?
If you have a suggestion, we'd be glad to look at it.
Ramirez?
The only place we have is the baseball field, like the complex, like last year.
Because, 2 years ago, we had it on by the pavilion over there by the basketball court, so.
That one didn't work.
I mean, the firemen have got a lot better at understanding fireworks. I think some of them have got, understand how they work and can get them out there, so they become really good at it.
And like out there, what do y'all, the people, where they sit, or where they got tables, or how do y'all do it? I didn't go.
Well, you can see it from a long ways. There's bleachers there, and other ways, work to bring folding chairs to watch the event.
Did y'all go to the one we had on the county?
No, I didn't.
How about you didn't go? Okay. Can you explain me to how we did it?
We just put, tables on the parking lot,
Canopies,
canopies, the vendors, on the outers.
the edge.
The bands were on the far corner, facing
South side.
the barrio.
The coordination of the event is going to take place before, so there's plenty of chances to accommodate or amend whatever needs to be done to satisfy whatever we desire. And we're more than amenable. But the idea was that both the city and the county would get together.
Yes, sir.
Joint.
And fund one event and get a better event.
Yes, sir.
We can try it.
I mean, that's fine, I understand all that. The only thing is, when I'm just the dirt, that's what
You
I'm,
can take a shower.
sure?
Afterward, you take a shower.
No, that's nothing to do.
Just
Make it a-
And the cook-off.
One day.
You can make it all day event and do barbecue and you have a reason to get dirty.
And cook-offs, there's smoke, dirt, and there's fun.
Y'all got a lineup already?
I don't know if
Not a complete.
I think our main goal is just to have an idea of if we're gonna go ahead and come together. We don't wanna have two separate events. I don't
No.
believe that our town is big enough for that. So I think that's what we want, just to know clarification if we're gonna come together, so we can work together. And I think that all those things can be taken care of at a later time.
Maybe bring a carnival.
Sure.
Maybe bring the carnival van for the July weekend. Number is too much. At that location? No. I'm fine.
I think it's a good idea to get together, have one event instead of.
Yeah, well, one event, that sounds real good, though. Work together. Only thing we need to, except work on the,
Fix it up.
on the place where we're gonna do it. I mean, we're gonna do it over there, water it real good.
We can help them out with that. Asphalt, water.
I think it's high ground and more people can see it from other areas because it's high ground.
Did you go to this one last year?
Yeah, I was there.
Did you
Oh,
go to the
there.
city?
No, you can't go to both.
You can go to both.
The only
Yeah, I would-
concern,
I
the
would
only
go-
concern I have, over here is, it's fenced in, and let's just say you get a major band, big band, you only have a little concrete patio, you put the picnic tables on top, you're already taking half of the sitting area. Everybody else will have to be on the outside
You
of the
know,
fence.
and when you want to get big bands, it's great. But what I've been having to deal with, and sometimes it seems like I'm horrible, is that I mentioned earlier that it's hard to come up with money, that you got your revenue caps and you can go, and we become very reliant on taxes only. Your fees from fines have gone way down. You know, a lot of other collection fees, we don't have the court cases that we did during the oil field when they were filing all those lawsuits for determined ownership. So your fee structure is going down. And the biggest fear, even if I was gonna be here, the biggest fear I'm gonna have, that eventually you're not gonna have enough money to cover all your bills. Even though you have everything, your fees have cut down 2 times, maybe 3 times, and we keep giving raises and paying out for these functions. And so you gotta partner up to have these events because the money's not always gonna be there. You're limited because we've expanded a lot, and we've grown a lot, and it takes more money to operate. But if you're operating and just worried on the taxes, and people aren't working, or the fines aren't coming in, then you're gonna run out of money. Because we're paying a lot of workers, and we got some officials that are getting paid that don't work. And I've mentioned it over and over, but, well, you know, because of la politica, you don't want to lose that vote, you end up paying a lot of money, and the work's not there. So that has to be justified. You know, so I'm saying, hey, let's just do the event with the city, half, and then, if it doesn't work next year, you identify a pot of money to fund it, or do it during the budget process and put some money aside.
Do y'all have the music already?
No, the only thing that's already been paid for is the fireworks.
But do y'all know who, okay, do y'all know who's gonna pay for y'all? I mean,
We have an idea, but not a complete lineup, and we don't have, because it was still, it was a back and forth thing. If the county was gonna have one, the city had one, because I know, did you go ahead and reach out to them also? I know that they were a little confused of what the county was gonna do and what the city was gonna do. And our idea was keeping it together, but we weren't sure what y'all gonna give us. That's why we don't have a complete lineup yet.
Okay.
The only thing that's been paid for, like I said, was the fireworks, and that was $23,000 for the show.
that's fine, I like the idea of having it together.
Done deal?
So we would, what's your budget that you're working with? The amount of the budget you're working with?
Spending money.
Under 100,000.
Really?
Oh, hey, you do it by yourself then.
You're good. You're a good partner.
I think it's a show of force when the county and the city get together instead of one of us taking the limelight from the other.
So would you be working on a $200,000 budget or a $100,000 budget if the county combined? So it'd be 50/50, 50/50?
Está bueno.
We're in the same restraints that you are as far as raising revenue.
I think if we got the money, we can put a little bit more than 50/50, no?
No, that's plenty.
We'll see.
You get audited. You need a motion, Judge?
So we would need a motion to budget $50,000 as a line item for Fourth of July event.
No, I want to make the motion.
And also to make Commissioner
Tomas Garcia.
wanted to make one employee full-time, Tomas Garcia.
Tomas Garcia.
So the budget amendment to cover their, that expense. What do you think, about 25,000 into your? So it would be a budget,
Es de lo que tiene ahorita.
not that much.
No raise, no nada.
It's like 20 cents, 30 cents.
Bueno. Include ustedes.
So he's gonna move a total of $8,000 from road hauling materials to group health and retirement. So a total of 8,000.
That's my phone
So
number.
it's to, the budget amendment would be,
When would be a good time, Mary, para que comience full time?
2 weeks.
Like a
following-
payroll week, back
the
and roll,
following.
next week,
The following fall.
next Monday?
so that would be the motion for $50,000 for that. Fireworks,
So we're doing both right at the same time, right?
sir? Yeah, we can do both. The budget amendment. And then the line item is created, and then whenever Mary gets the bill, she can pay it. So is there a
I'll
motion?
make the motion.
I make them, I have made the motion. Okay.
Okay, be second.
No
Yeah, two at the same
matter-
time?
Second, no matter which.
Okay. Motion's been made, second by Commissioner Nieves. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I know Dora's here, and she brought to me the valuation, the services by Verage, which is number 14. Ms. Gonzalez, you're here, and you reached out for a master services contract for Verage LLC Limited Liability Company to be able to do the billing from your software. And Ms. Martinez read through the contract, already made the changes, and this would allow the billings, once the tax rate is adopted, to be able to be outsourced by them. And I believe they do the school already?
No, I don't think so.
And I'm looking for the price. Yes, on the fourth page, 37,471.30, which includes laser printing, rendering,
There's two options in there, I'm sorry.
You don't have a choice.
okay, one option is for,
Okay.
It's option A, the one that I wanted,
no le quería.
it's
19,443. See, but they total A and B together. I don't know why
Appreciate it.
they do that.
I don't know, that's the way the quote came out, but she specified I could choose either A or B. So I'm going with A.
So once the tax rate is adopted, they're integrated with your software, and then they print out and send all the notices.
Yes.
And this would kind of prevent some of the mistakes that happen when we do it by hand.
19443.
Plus it'll be a lot quicker to get them out. Because I have about close to 70,000 accounts, so.
So because of the oil, now you have a tremendous amount of statements and mineral holders created. And how fast can they, like if you let them know what that tax rate is, what's their response time?
I don't know, according to the appraisal district, they're really good at giving you where they're at in the process, so I'm not sure. I know they do different counties.
So they already do the appraisal districts in LaSalle, Webb, Duval, Dimmitt, Clayburgh, Nueces, San Patricio. And for the tax office, they do Zavala, McMullen, Live Oak, Zapata. So there's a number of counties our size, especially in the Panhandle, that they do. And Ms. Martinez responded, I am pleased that they agreed to modifications, and after reviewing the updated agreement, it is my legal opinion that this revised agreement is legally appropriate, and after the approval of the court may be executed accordingly. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. What's the time frame? Do y'all want more time to read it, and you want to table it, or you want to go with it, or,
There's no sense tabling, Judge. I mean,
You've already read over it, Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
yeah, I had it on the agenda about a month ago, but I didn't have the document. And then we asked Ms. Gonzalez, but she was out, so she didn't plan it, so that's why it's here today.
The corrective contract, is at the back. It's the first one, and then they get updated.
what page is that, Ms. Gonzalez?
Two ones that were corrected, 40, and then
This is what happened. She has so many that she has to fold. She has 70,000. They can't all do them all in a week, so they go in staggered terms. So it probably takes her about a month to put them out. So by the time we approve the tax rate in September, sometimes even if we get late into October, then the statements don't go out, so people don't make a payment, so you extend the discount, so it slows down the money that comes in. So by doing this, she can expedite the amount of time that she gets the statements out to get the money in faster. And we have a large amount of taxes that get paid pretty much as soon as they get the notices. So that's where it helps. That's where it helps.
No, we can go that route.
So, what's the tax rate gonna be going up to? We said, what do you foreclose that's gonna be the interest rate in the spring? Or this year?
Jorge,
David?
The tax rate is,
Not tax rate, but the, interest rate on,
That kind of money?
yeah, so if you.
by the Fed.
Yeah, so a 20-year, interest rate, you're looking at about probably 4.5%.
Not bad.
So if we look at the interest rate on $30 million in a month, just for 1 month, how much would that be?
That's gotta be a tough payment, it's gotta be a lot, but it'll go down.
About 120,000? About 120,000.
Interest,
So,
not bad.
so she's trying to bring in the money faster. This helps her bring in the money faster. She gets that money in, it comes to Mary, she puts it in the tax pool. You got 3-4%, that's about $120,000 more in interest that you have by getting it early. So the advantage is that she's able to get
Millions.
more money in faster.
It's worth it.
So that's, I said, if not, she's gonna need additional help. So is there a motion to approve the contract, or you want to table it to read it more? Or you want to deny it? But we need a motion to move on.
I make the motion to approve the contract.
I second.
Motion's been made to approve it. The seconded, Commissioner Ayala. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Jumping to number 19, discussion possible action to authorize creation of nonprofit for sheriff and fire departments. We have lost a lot of opportunities in getting donations because we don't have a 501c. Union Pacific has programs to where they pay quite a bit, but we don't have 501c, they won't do it for a county. Even though it is deductible to do a county, they prefer 501c. The same thing with the sheriff, they want to do scholarships and so forth, but we have to create the 501c. Yes, sir. Can you see? So Don Smith, has worked with an attorney that has set up nonprofits in the past, and he can set up the nonprofit either individually for the sheriff's office or together for the sheriff's office or for the fire department to be able to maximize donations and contributions. And even though some of the contributions say, hey, it looks really good, some people are good at giving donations. Sometimes you have to reach out for others. Like Michelle and Donna have reached out to New Star and other companies and they give donations, but you gotta work them. And I know the sheriff has a couple things where he was working for, setting up a nonprofit for salaries, but we all need the 501c. So, you know, Danny, have you lost any opportunity to 501c? You have? And then I know, Captain Sotovia as well, Under Sheriff Sotovia, y'all are in need of 501c as well. So let's get it pushed so we don't keep losing money. 501c requires an application to the IRS individually. It probably has some budgets that have to be done. And then after, there's a fee that has to be paid. And after the approval, then it'll require yearly reports, yearly accounting, but that's separate. And they'll be separate from the general fund. And we've set up nonprofits before, and several, whether it's the Gardendale or Children Alliance, and they set up their own board completely to handle that money once it's created. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
I don't know if you want to explain or add more, but kind of let them know what your expertise is and so the commissioners understand.
Well, I've formed a number of nonprofits for volunteer fire departments, emergency medical services, foundations for the Texas Interstate Fire and Mutual Aid System, TIFMAS, Foundation for the Texas Department of Health for tobacco money. And I've kind of put together both articles of incorporation as well as bylaws, of course, subject to y'all's approval and then comments. For what it's worth, I did write the articles of incorporation as the LaSalle County First Responder Foundation, which would support both fire and law enforcement, the sheriff's office and the LaSalle County Fire Department, Fire and EMS Department. And it's to accept donations and to support both those entities. So it would be there. I put in the county judge as it stands now, and the sheriff, as well as Don Smith. I don't care who they are. I'm just saying that, those are the three I thought of that would be interested in this, because the way it's set up is it has three members of the board of directors, all of whom are appointed by the commissioner's court. But I would assume they would bring in the sheriff, and then Don was just there as a placeholder. If you want to use him since he's involved with other issues, that would be great. I also put me in as the registered agent, but I'm thinking the county attorney may be the more appropriate person for that. But that's up to y'all as well. Now, as to the bylaws, which you should have with you too, as you can see, its members run it. So it's set up like a fire department, a volunteer fire department or a volunteer EMS squad, so that it has governmental immunity. And it's operated by its members. I may have to make it a little more pointed in providing fire services. That is up to y'all, but I suggest we look into that, because that would make sure that we have the ability to have governmental immunity if possible. And the officers are the president, secretary, and treasurer, who are the three board members. And the directors are the members of the corporation, so it's run by the members to fit into the into the Civil Practice and Remedies Code, Chapter 101. And the way they are brought in is those individuals who are appointed by the County Commissioners Court of LaSalle County, Texas, 2 members and directors shall be selected from the existing County Commissioners Court, which is how I've set it up. But if we want to put the sheriff in there, then we have to change that. And shall serve a term of 1 year. They also serve only as long as they're a county commissioner. And the third person shall be selected by the County Commissioners Court of LaSalle County. So you could, at this point, the way the bylaws are set up, instead of the sheriff, you could appoint 2 commissioners from the Commissioners Court or the judge, and then a third person who could be the sheriff. However y'all want to do it. I'm just looking for more input at this point.
I know when we made changes to the Public Facilities Corporation in Salle on the detention center, we had it to where it mirrors the Commissioner's Court or the elected officials, meaning I'm out or somebody else is out, then automatically at the first meeting of the new term, the new person's already automatically in.
Well, and we can set it up to where it's 3 individuals appointed by the Commissioner's Court. They could be self-appointed. We have to work in conjunction with the county, so I want the county to be comfortable with how we set it up. So we could set it up to where it's just 3 members from the community. So it could be, for example, you, after you leave office, and then whomever else the Commissioner's Court would like on there. So I can set it up any way you want. I'm just looking, like I said, for more direction.
What do y'all want? I mean, you got the sheriff, commissioners, you want to be on the board, who wants to be on the board? Something that has to be done. Or, we can appoint,
Yeah, I'm fine.
I mean, it's good to have, okay, we got the sheriff, let's get the sheriff, 2 commissioners. We're gonna get 5,
25.
we'll get 5. Because they also operate under the Open Meetings Act. So they still have to do postings when they have the meetings and so forth. It's a separate board, but just for the nonprofit. So,
How many commissioners you need? 2?
it's up to you. I mean, that's why we get the feedback.
Okay, you got the
If
sheriff.
you got the sheriff and law enforcement, you want to get 1 from each department. The chief and the sheriff, or his designee. The sheriff can have somebody to be his proctor, or, in case he can't be there.
You mean?
But do we have to pick right now who?
Well, no, we don't have to pick who, but how do we break it up? you know.
We need 5, the judge.
One, judge. And then in January, then the new judge would come in automatically. Kind of like, it's the same way we set it up with the Emerald deal.
Yeah, that's fine. Count us in.
But you don't have to pick who. I mean, it'd be good if you pick who right now. Flip a coin. Who wants to be on it?
I'm gonna be, no, do you want to? You pick.
I'll be in it.
So it's up to you.
You'll be in it? What, are you 2 commissioners or what?
Two commissioners.
I'll be the other one.
And the judge, chief,
Okay.
we need one more.
Commissioner Nieves, Commissioner
Ramirez?
Ramirez, the fire chief, Daniel Mendez, Sheriff Anthony Sartuche, and myself for the initial board, and then, and it will change in January. How long do you think it'll take before you get started? I mean, before?
Well, once I know for sure how you want it kind of structured, it's a matter of getting it down and getting it filed with the state. That will take a day or two, a week at the most to get back. And then, as I've been talking to you and Mr. Smith about, is we need to try and come up with some budgets for 2 or 3 years, anticipated budgets, and then we would send off to the IRS. That could take up to 6 months or longer to get that, but it would relate back to the date of creation, so.
Can you also put that a board member can assign somebody as well?
I'm sorry, sir?
Can you also put that a board member can have a proctor or someone, if they give written notice, that they can have someone in their place?
You mean a proxy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I actually have it set up so there aren't proxies, but I can do that.
Okay. Let's say they have to have a meeting, both commissioners are out, and the judge are out, and he had a written proxy, he said, you know what, I'll sign, Ms. Martinez or somebody,
So how many?
on my behalf or somebody else, huh?
There's one 5.
Yeah.
Well, I was out. I'm out.
Huh?
I'm out.
No. I said, once they create it, I'll come off and put you in my proxy. That's what it is. Huh?
That's fine.
Huh? So that's why. Let's go. So commissioners, are you in favor of setting up the nonprofit?
I am.
Proceed.
Yeah.
Danny? Yes?
We need it, don't we?
Yes. I know that we missed out some grants from you, from,
That nonprofit, that money's, they're gonna control it, or is it gonna come through the treasurer's?
it's a nonprofit, it has a separate bank account under those board members, but, it's still subject to audit and stuff like that. It's still under the,
Yeah, but it won't be gone to the treasurer.
no.
No.
There's some grants, like through Union Pacific, and some of them have been like $50,000, that we can't even apply because we don't even have it. So even working with Steer, they have some that they can't help us. So it's gonna benefit, it's gonna pay off.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
just to answer your question about the proxies are not allowed. I can make it allowed, but to answer your question, is voting may be allowed through the use of electronic communication, in other words, email or via telephone conference. So you don't necessarily have to be present.
Okay. All right. As long as the change happens when you're no longer a member of the county government, then it switches to whoever assumes that position.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't hear very well. Did we decide who the 3 board members would be? Would they just be picked by the commissioners court and then they can pick whoever they want, or do we have specific ones?
What's the total amount of board members that we're looking at? 5, right?
3. I can make it more if you would like. 3 is the minimum, and I usually find that's more streamlined, but we can make it more.
Sheriff and fire.
I was thinking 5, but 5, you'd have your, your fire chief, sheriff,
Judge.
2 commissioners, and the judge.
Three is enough.
Well, that would be, if you did that, that would be, I think, a quorum
Yes.
possibly of the commissioners' court, so there'd have to be all the public notices and stuff. That's why I was trying to keep it less than a quorum of the commissioners' court. Because I heard you say 2 commissioners and the judge, I think.
Yeah, and I understand it'd be subject to the Open Meetings Act when they do have a meeting, which is okay and probably better.
Who else would be good?
You can hold it in conjunction, right after or right before your regular commissioners' court meeting if you do that. Just be aware. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't remember if the judge counts as the quorum, what constitutes a quorum for a commissioner's court.
Yes, he can.
Yeah, 3 people.
Any 3 members of the court
That's
constitute.
what I thought.
Yeah,
Thank you, Michael.
all right.
So they-
I prefer 3,
Commissioner and the judge.
because if one of them can't show up, at least you got the others. And then they can't say, hey, well, you're misusing, you're having secret meetings, and you know what? We got the notice there. It's there. It's being operated right there, and it's gonna take that heat off of you. It's really gonna take that heat off of you.
So
So
really, the fire
keep it
chief and the-
transparent, huh?
And the sheriff, that should be enough. But
Yeah.
they want more, 3. But
I mean, if you're okay with Danny and the sheriff and just one person, and the judge, that's fine.
And if you can't go, one of them can go.
So you would just wanna keep it at the 3, then we'll just keep it at the 3.
It'd be better.
Okay, keep it at 3, being the sheriff, the public member, and the judge.
Yeah, the
Or the
fire
sheriff
chief,
would-
the fire chief,
Fire chief, sheriff,
Judge.
and a county commissioner, maybe the
no,
judge.
no, just
whichever.
3, just 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fire
Yeah.
chief, sheriff, and then
Judge.
any of the commissioners' court, right?
County judge, yeah.
Well, I guess for now, me, but whoever the commissioner's court delegate.
Yeah, that'll work.
So it could be the judge or it could be commissioners. So when you have your meeting, you just delegate somebody in January.
And then
All right.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. I have 3 executive session items. If we want to take a break for about 10 minutes and then come back in the executive session, we can. But I got 3, discussion, executive session, potential action, open session, local government code 551.071, consultation with Michael Shaughnessy and Carlos Sotero. Authorized RFP for dialysis clinic. Discussion on contract negotiations, continuation or cancellation of Touchstone. Touchstone is here. We have here also for the water quality testing. And number 12, creation of emergency services, district, emergency fire district with boundaries to match the boundaries of the county of LaSalle. We got those 4 items to cover. Any action on any of these is an open session. So if you want to go into it, or you want to take 10 minutes, get a drink of water and come back in executive session, then we'll take a 10-minute recess.
Make a motion.
Judge.
10-minute recess.
Yes,
Second?
Are you gonna need me on item 12?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Shaughnessy.
I don't know that I need to participate in the other 3.
Yeah,
I'm not
Mr.
sure how to
Shaughnessy.
logistically handle that.
And Mr. Shaughnessy, so when we go into executive session, we'll cover 12 first. So Commissioner Ramirez made a motion to take a 10-minute, and second by Commissioner Ayala, 10-minute recess.
We'll get my wife.
Get a drink of water, too.